Hello, everyone. We are continuing in marketing today with Chapter 8, developing new products and managing the product lifecycle. We are going to be talking today about Part 2, which is managing that product lifecycle. Okay, so I'm going to be using the acronym PLC quite a bit in this section, and that stands for product lifecycle. This is the course of a product's sales and a product's profits over the course of its entire lifetime. So after launching a new product, we always want, as a business, we always want our product to have this very long, very happy, very prosperous, very profitable life. Although we don't expect our product to sell forever, we're very realistic. We know that that's probably not the case. We do want it to earn a decent profit to cover all of that effort, all of that risk that we poured into the product in order to launch it. Each product is going to have its own specific life cycle. Although when we launch a new product, that exact shape and the exact length of the life cycle are not known in advance. Very similar to people. We don't know when we are born, we don't know what our life is going to look like. We don't know how long it's going to be, and it's going to vary wildly from person to person. The same thing goes with a product life cycle, a PLC. So a product life cycle has 5 distinct stages, and you can see here on this graphic in terms of the 5 different stages. And I've got, this graph shows sales and profits on the y-axis, and then we've got timeline on the x-axis. And you can see how we've got sales and we've got profits on here and what those look like for each stage of the product life cycle. So we've got our first stage is product development, our second is introduction, our third is growth, our fourth is maturity, and our fifth and final stage is decline. And we're going to talk about each of these in more detail here next. But again, this is a great graphic that shows what happens as with the profits, with the sales of a specific product, as it is going through its life cycle, through these 5 distinct stages, what is happening in each of these 5 stages over time. So we begin when we first find and develop that new product idea. That is our product development. Sales are 0. We're not selling anything yet. And we're putting a lot of R&D, research and development costs. We're investing a lot. We're seeing actually negative profits. We have no sales and we're pouring all this money into actually developing the developing the product. So that is where we're here in our first stage in product development, is where we have not even started selling the product to the marketplace. We're actually losing money right now because we're not selling anything and we're putting a lot of investment into actually creating the product itself. So, but this is the first stage in our product life cycle. This is product development. And then we've got our second stage, introduction. This is the stage where the new product is actually first distributed, first made available for purchase, and first being sold. So this is where we're going to start to see our first sales. Profits are still pretty much non-existent because we're still trying to make up all that ground for the heavy expenses and investment that we put in during the product introduction, but they are starting to go on an upward trend. So this is when we first just introduce it to the marketplace. Then we've got our third stage is growth. This is a period, and growth is a very self-explanatory name for what is happening in this stage. This is a period of very rapid market acceptance and increasing profit. This is where we see our sales start to climb very quickly, and we're actually starting to see our profits in the positive, as opposed to in the prior 2 stages, we were in the negative. So we're starting to see positive profits now and huge growth in sales. So everything's growing right now, thus the name growth. And then our fourth stage is maturity. This is where we've matured. We're not going to be growing anymore. The growth is going to kind of slow down. It's going to kind of level off. And the slowdown is caused because our product has achieved acceptance by most potential buyers. So we just don't have a lot of potential new buyers. So we're pretty much going to level off here in terms of both sales and profits. And our profits are probably going to slightly turn down a little bit. And then decline, our final stage. Just like life, we're all going to end up kind of on that down slope. This is the period where our sales are going to fall off and our profits are going to drop. Just like when you hit middle age, when you get old, your body starts to deteriorate, your mind isn't as quick as it used to be. The same thing happens with products. You are on the decline, just like these products are. And not all products follow all 5 stages of the product life cycle. Again, it's all very unique, just like snowflakes, just like people. Some products are introduced and then they die very quickly. They don't go through that full 5-stage process. Others are going to stay in the mature stage for a very, very, very long time. And some products are going to enter that decline stage and are then recycled back into the growth stage through things like strong advertising, really strong promotion, really strong repositioning, or something that happens that just makes it a very popular product again. So again, not all products are going to follow all 5 stages of the product life cycle, just like this perfect graph. But this gives you an idea of just kind of the general timeline and just kind of the general shape of a lot of these curves. Well-managed brands, it seems, could live forever to infinity. These are all companies that I'm going to list here that have been around for more than 100 years, which again is a very long time of how long capitalism has been around in our society. So Coca-Cola, known for their cola, Gillette, which is known for making razors, IBM, International Business Management, a tech company, American Express, Wells Fargo, Heinz, known for ketchup, Quaker, we all know Quaker oatmeal, and Tabasco sauce, for those of you who really like a little kick and everything. I used to work with a gal who would bring Tabasco sauce in her purse just so she could put it on whatever she wanted. She was a diehard Tabasco fan. Tabasco sauce has been around for 150 years. Guinness Beer, this is an Irish company. They're headquartered out of Dublin. They have been around for more than 250 years. So again, sometimes you can have a very long life cycle with your product that lasts, in Guinness's case, centuries. So the product life cycle concept can describe a product class, a product form, or a specific brand. So what do those mean? So I'll give you some examples of what I mean by these 3 different concepts. So a product class is usually a very broad concept. So for example, a product class of vehicles could be gasoline-powered automobiles. A product form is going to get a little bit more specific. This could be specifically SUVs. And then brand is going to be even more specific. So a specific brand of a gasoline-powered automobile that is an SUV would be a Ford Escape. So you can see how they can range from being very broad to very specific in terms of a product life cycle. So product classes tend to have the very longest life cycles. Sales of these product classes tend to stay in the maturity stage for a very long time. Product forms tend to have a very standard product life cycle shape. So product forms, let's think of some examples like telephones, like VHS tapes, like film cameras, have all passed through this very regular standard PLC curve of introduction, rapid growth, maturity, and then decline. So they followed really that standard product life cycle shape. And then the specifics brand life cycle can change very, very quickly because of their competition from other brands? Are they being attacked by their competitors? How are they responding to what's going on in the marketplace? So these can really change very quickly and are going to vary wildly as opposed to product classes or product forms. So product class of laundry soap. But again, we talked about how product classes tend to have the longest life cycle. Laundry soaps. Again, we've all got to do laundry. We've all got to wash our clothes. Laundry soaps have enjoyed a very long life cycle. So the life cycles of product forms and specific brands of laundry soaps have tended to be much shorter. So let's take a look at this example. So the product form for laundry soaps of powder detergents, and back in the day, they used to use bars to wash their soap. They would actually, scrub the clothing with like a bar of laundry soap. Now that is something we would not think about today, but they have kind of paved the way for new product forms. So now we have liquids. Now we have these pods. So again, these tend to have a shorter life cycle. And then we've got our leading brands. So 100 years ago, the leading laundry soap companies were Fels Naphtha and Octagon. Again, 100 years ago. Now, where have these companies gone? No, I'm sure no one is using Fels Naphtha or Octagon to do their laundry because these companies no longer exist. Whereas today, the leading US brands of laundry detergent are Tide or Gain. So this is just some examples of how that product life cycle could be based on our three different forms of product class, product form, and brands. And the product life cycle concept can be applied to things like styles, things like fashion, things like fad. So let's go over what styles, fashion, and fads mean. So style. This is a very basic, very distinctive mode of expression. And once a style is invented, it may last for generation. It could pass in and out of vogue. And you see here with this graphic, typically styles have cycles that show periods of renewed interest. So you can see the sales of whatever this style is that is used in this example will increase, then it'll kind of decrease, and then it'll increase again a little bit later. So it's going in and out of style, in and out of vogue, where people are buying it, kind of disregarding it, but then coming back again. So an example of style, we're going to use styles of homes. Hopefully, all of you will be proud homeowners one day. There are lots of different styles of homes, and you can see how each one is just a little bit different. They may be super popular now, go kind of out of vogue, and then come back in popularity. So styles of homes includes colonial. It could be a ranch, a one-story. It could be a Victorian. Modern farmhouse seems to be the very popular style right now. It's eventually going to be out of vogue for a little bit, and it'll probably come back into more increased style. So just an example. Styles of art. So there's all sorts of different styles of art. You could be a realist, a surrealist, abstract, impressionist, Baroque, Art Deco. There's a lot of different styles of art. And then let's talk about fashion. So that is what a fashion is. That is a currently accepted or very popular style in a given field. So again, we've got our graphic on here, and you can see fashions tend to grow very slowly. They're going to remain popular for a while, and then they're going to die slowly. So they tend to have a much slower life cycle than, let's say, a style. A fashion example. So if you ended up getting a job after college where you were going to go work at a Fortune 500 company, go work in a big city like New York or Chicago, you would probably have to wear a suit to work. You would have more formal business attire for your corporate dress if you were working in the 1970s, 80s, and 90s. But now, the look of the 2000s, 2010s, and now 2020s, we've moved to more of a business casual look. Unless you work in a certain field, you're probably going to look pretty silly showing up to work in a three-piece suit, or for a woman showing up in your business suit with your giant shoulder pads. Again, it's a lot more casual. That's an example of a fashion, but it took a long time for this to kind of cycle in and out. And then we've got our fads. So what a fad is, this is a temporary period of very unusually high sales that is driven by consumer enthusiasm and by very immediate brand or product popularity. A fad, and you can see here in the graphic, it is just going right up, but then you see it goes right back down in terms of sales. So it's very short-lived in terms of time, and it peaks very quickly and then it comes down very quickly. And a fad may be part of a very otherwise normal life cycle. So let's just take a look at some examples of some fads. So I don't know if you all remember, but 2014, everyone was doing the ice bucket challenge. But again, no one is doing that nowadays. This was a huge fad that literally everyone was doing about 10 years ago, but is pretty much non-existent. Then we've got fidget spinners. These were incredibly popular, especially with younger generations. You may have played with one of these when you were younger. Again, you don't see very many of them. I remember when the Snuggie first came out, like the wearable blanket. Everyone was buying it. I actually bought one. But again, you don't really hear about these very much anymore. Or Pokemon Go. I think this came out around 2016, and everybody was walking around with their phone trying to get all these Pokemons. And again, it was a fad. You don't really see anyone playing Pokemon Go anymore. Again, these went up very quickly, very fast in popularity and sales, and then they came right back down. So some examples of some fads. And then we've got some more. Let's go to some older fads. So the waterbed. In the 70s and 80s, so many people had waterbeds. This was a huge fad. I think like almost half of all mattresses sold were actually waterbeds. And again, now no one has a waterbed. There is not a single person that I have ever met in the last 30 years that has a waterbed. The pet rock, this was another one. This is literally just a rock. It comes with its own little book to show how to care for the rock, but this was all it was. Hacky sack, this was something that was very popular when I was in like junior high school. Pogs, many of you may have never heard of these. I don't really know what they were supposed to do. There was a game you could play with it, but they were just round cardboard, just like things with like illustrations on them, and they were hugely popular, but you don't hear about these anymore. These are all examples of fads. So let's go back to our 5 stages of the product life cycle. So let's go a little bit more in depth with all of our phases. So our introduction stage. This starts when our new product, we're first launching it. The introduction takes a lot of time. Sales growths are probably very slow. As you see, I've got a picture of a snail here because it can sometimes be very slow. So very well-known products like frozen foods, like HD TVs, and right now electric vehicles have lingered for many, many years in that kind of introduction stage before entering a stage of more rapid growth. So it could be a very slow process during this introduction stage. And during the introduction stage, our profits are negative or low because we've got really low sales. We've got very high distribution and advertising and promotion costs. We've got to get everything set up. So we're actually losing money at the time because we've got to put so much into all these costs. The promotion spending, all that advertising, is very high because we've got to inform consumers of the new product and get them to try it. They're not going to know about it if we don't tell them about it. So the market pioneer has the best chance, so the company that actually brings the first product of its kind to market has the best chance of building and retaining that market leadership if it plays its card correctly from the start. Okay, now we've got our growth stage. So if the new product does actually satisfy the market, it's going to then subsequently enter the growth stage, where we're actually going to start to see our sales start climbing, and hopefully climbing very quickly. So companies can keep their promotion spending at the same, or they may increase it to a slightly higher level. and prices remain probably very constant, or they may actually decrease just slightly during this growth stage. Okay, but we've got to look at our competitors now. During the growth stage, new competitors are going to enter the market. They're going to be attracted by the profit opportunities that they see from what we've done. Our competitors are going to introduce new product features, and the market's going to continue to expand. And educating the market via our advertising, via our promotion remains a goal. But now we've also got to deal with our competition as well. So this is a new addition during the growth stage, is dealing with all of our competitors and new competitors entering the market. And during the growth stage, profits are going to increase because all of our promotion costs are spread over this larger volume now, and the per unit manufacturing costs are going to decrease. And we could use many different strategies to sustain rapid market growth for as long as possible, because that's what we want. We want our product to keep on growing, people to keep buying it. We could improve the product quality. We could add new product features, add new models. We could look at entering new market segments, looking at different target markets. We could look at new distribution channels. Maybe we've only sold all of our products direct to consumers online, but now we're going to have to start stocking it in places like Target, places like Walmart, places like Walgreens. And we're also going to look perhaps at the pricing. If we lower our pricing at the right time, we could attract more buyers. So these are all different strategies that could be looked at during that growth stage. Now we've got our maturity stage. At some point, our sales growth is going to slow down and the product is going to enter the maturity stage. Again, just like people, we're all going to eventually enter that maturity stage. And the maturity stage normally lasts much, much longer than previous stages. Most products that we know that we buy are currently in the maturity stage of the product life cycle. So most marketing management, most strategy, most things that we're working on deals with a mature product and what's going on in this maturity stage, because this stage does last usually very long for the majority of the product's life. So during the maturity stage, we could see overcapacity. So our factories are far too big because we used to be producing at a much higher level, but now we've seen a slowdown. We've seen our sales growth, we've seen it start to decrease because we've got greater competition. Our competitors, remember, we now have competitors that we're dealing with that enter during the growth stage. Our competitors may mark down their pricing. They may increase their advertising and sales budgets. They may also increase their product development budgets to find better versions of a product. And this is going to lead to a drop in sales in our profits. And some of our weaker competitors may start dropping out, and the industry is probably going to eventually contain only the very best and the most well-established competitors during the maturity stage. Many products that are in the maturity stage appear to remain unchanged for long periods of time. So most of the successful products are actually evolving to meet consumer needs. So successful companies, while a product is in the maturity stage, they're going to look at ways to modify the market. They're going to look at ways to modify the product, and they're going to look for ways to modify the marketing mix. So when we're looking at modifying the market, a company will try to increase consumption by finding new users, finding new market segments for its brands. So Harley-Davidson, well known for making motorcycles. Axe fragrances, they are known for making kind of like cologne and fragrances for usually younger people. They have typically targeted, both companies, Harley-Davidson and Axe, have typically targeted male buyers. However, once their products really enter the maturity stage, they realized that they needed to find new users. They needed to find new market segments for its brands. So they started creating products and started marketing certain other of their products, and they started aiming them at women. So it wasn't just men anymore. They were looking for new market segments in women. So this is very common. Another example. So Weight Watchers. This is a program. Oprah has been a sponsorship for them. Typically, it's like when you want to lose weight, you'll join this program. They have, and Bath and Body Works, this is a flagship store in most malls. They have, both of these companies have typically targeted female buyers, but again, they're entering the maturity stage. So they've realized that they've got to expand the market. They've got to find new users. So they have then created products and marketing programs that are now aimed at men as well. So not just women, but also men. And you see, I've got some examples here of Bath and Body Works for men. They've got male specific fragrances. In the Weight Watchers, they show advertisements that now include male users who have lost a lot of weight using the Weight Watchers program. Now, in modifying the product itself, a company is going to change the characteristics of the product. They could change things like the quality, the features, the packaging, the style, or even the technology platform. And they do this because they want to retain current users or attract new ones by adding new parts, features, styles, packagings, things that will hopefully attract new users. And then our last one is modifying the marketing mix. So our marketing mix is our product, price, place, promotion. A company would attempt to improve their sales by changing one or more of those marketing mix elements. So we could offer new or improved services to our buyers. We can cut prices. We can make it less money to attract new users and try to get our competitors' customers. In terms of promotion, we can launch better advertising campaigns or use very aggressive sales promotions. So we can look at modifying our marketing mix, our product, price, place, promotion. And then, unfortunately and inevitably, we're going to hit our decline stage. So the sales of most new product forms and brands are eventually going to dip. This decline may be very slow. For example, like postage stamps, mainframe computers, where it's going to take decades, even centuries, or the decline may be rapid. So when DVDs were introduced to the market, VHS tapes took a very quick, very rapid decline. During the decline stage, the sales of a product may plunge absolutely all the way down to zero, or it could be a slow wait. They may drop down to a very low level for many, many years. And sales decline for many reasons. It could be technological advances that make our product obsolete. There could be big shifts in consumer taste, or we could be facing increased competition. And as sales and profits decline, a lot of firms are going to withdraw from the market because it's just not as profitable as it was during that growth stage. Those who do remain may cut down their product offering. So instead of offering 25 different versions of a product, they may only be down to 5 now. So they're going to cut down their product offering. And if we decide that we're going to stay in the market, if we are carrying a very weak product, this could be very costly to our firm, and not just in profits. There are a lot of hidden costs as well. If we decide that we're going to keep a weak product around, that could delay the search for replacements. All this money and effort that we're putting in keeping the existing weak product, we're going to miss out on that new product development. It could create a very lopsided product mix for us. It's going to hurt our current profits because we just aren't making that many sales. And it's really going to weaken our company's foothold on the future. So companies must identify products that are in the decline stage and decide whether to maintain, harvest, or drop them. So management may decide that it's going to maintain its brand. It may decide that it's going to reposition or reinvigorate it in hopes of moving it back into that growth stage of the product life cycle. So a great example of a company deciding to maintain its brand that was in the decline stage is Old Spice. So Old Spice used to be, back in like 40s, 50s, 60s, very common aftershave, very common fragrance used for men. Like every single man used this. And after a few decades, it kind of became like the old man product. It really didn't appeal to younger audiences. So they decided that Old Spice decided that it was going to reinvigorate, reposition its brand. And in the 2010s, they came out with this series of very humorous commercials. And I've got a screenshot of one right here. And Terry Crews is in a lot of them. And they've really repositioned themselves to be something that younger generations now use. And they've really brought their brand back into the growth stage of the product life cycle because of this repositioning that they've done. Management, a company's management may decide to harvest the product. This means that they are going to reduce all the various costs. They're going to cut out all those costs that they don't deem as necessary. So the plant, the equipment, the maintenance, the research and development, the advertising, their direct sales force, hoping that sales are going to hold up. So they're going to reduce those costs and hope that we're still going to have the same amount of sales. So if successful, harvesting is going to increase the company's profits in the short run, with the company knowing that eventually this product is going to die. Let's just try to get a little bit more money out of this while we can, knowing it's on the decline. And of course, company management may decide just to completely drop the product from its line. The company can sell the product to another firm or simply just liquidate it at salvage value and just completely get rid of it from its product mix. So Procter & Gamble has been notorious for selling off declining brands and brands that really no longer fit them strategically for their objectives. So they have sold off Folgers coffee. They've sold off Crisco oil, Noxzema, which was a very popular face wash many years ago. Duncan Hines cake mixes, Duracell batteries, Eames pet foods. These are all examples of products in Procter & Gamble's eyes that had entered the decline stage, and they decided to sell them off and drop them from their line. Now let's talk about product decisions and social responsibility. So marketers should carefully consider public policy issues and regulations regarding whether they're going to acquire or drop products, patent protection, product quality and safety, and product warranties. So regarding new products, we talked about how important it is that a company needs to come up with new products. So with new products, government may prevent companies from adding products through acquisitions if the effect will threaten to lessen competition. These are examples of like antitrust kind of things. So companies dropping products must be aware that they have legal obligations, whether those are explicitly written or they are implied. They have legal obligations to their suppliers, to their dealers, and even to the customers who have a stake in that drop product. So we've got to realize that whatever we're doing, we probably have, the government is going to be regulating this, and we have certain obligations that we've got to take into account when we're making these kinds of decisions. Companies must also obey U.S. patent laws when developing new products. So a company cannot make its product illegally similar to another company's established product. This happened between Mattel, the maker of Barbie, and MGA Entertainment Inc., the maker of Bratz doll. Barbie essentially sued MGA Entertainment because of how similar the Bratz dolls were to the established Barbie, and the creator actually worked for Barbie for a time being. So we cannot make a product that is illegally similar to another company's very established product. So we've got to obey any patent laws when we're coming up with our new products. And manufacturers also have to comply with specific laws regarding product quality and product safety. So federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Acts protects consumers from unsafe and adulterated food, drugs, and cosmetics. So these various acts require that there is inspections of sanitary conditions in meat and poultry processing. And there's been a ton of safety legislation that has been passed to regulate things like fabrics, things like chemical substances, automobiles, toys, drugs and poisons. So we know that we're going to have government interaction with things having to do with the quality and the safety of these products. And we're probably going to have government oversight and inspections actually coming into our factories, coming into our processing plants. So the Consumer Product Safety Act of 1972 established Consumer Product Safety Commission. Now, what this means is they have the authority to seize or ban any potentially harmful products and set penalties if we violate this. If we create and bring to market a product that causes injuries, causes death. So if consumers have been injured by a product with some defective design, that means that legally they can sue the manufacturers or deals. Excuse me. A survey of manufacturing companies found that product liability was the second largest liability concern behind only labor and employment matters. So manufacturing companies realize how important product liability is and how big of a concern it is. So thousands of product liability suits are tried in U.S. district courts each year. So consumers suing dealers or manufacturers about unsafe products, although manufacturers are found to be at fault for usually only a very small percentage of cases. However, when they are found guilty, the awards could run into the millions of dollars, and class action suits can run into the billions of dollars. So an example of this. So Volkswagen admitted that it had rigged its diesel engine cars to cheat on emissions tests. So they had gone on for years promoting something called clean diesel, air quotes, clean diesel, as an alternative to hybrid and electric vehicles. However, because it was found out that they were being fraudulent, that they were not actually passing their emissions tests, that Volkswagen ended up facing a class action lawsuit that involved almost 500,000, almost 500,000 owners, and it was an estimated settlement of 15 billion. So this could be very expensive. And the litigation phenomenon has resulted in increases in product liability insurance costs. So a lot of companies have to take out special insurance to protect themselves against this. So some companies are going to pass these higher rates along to consumers by inevitably raising prices. Others are forced to discontinue very high-risk product lines because it just doesn't make economic sense. And many companies are appointing something called product stewards. And the job of these product stewards is to protect consumers from harm and to protect the company from liability by proactively finding potential product problems. So these product stewards are just going to go out and try to look for potential problems so that they can protect the consumer and protect the company. Now let's talk about international product marketing. So international, and again, we've primarily been talking very US centric for the majority of this chapter, but let's talk about some international matters. So international products and service marketers, they're going to face some unique, some very special challenges. They've got to decide what products and services that they are going to introduce and into what countries. They've got to decide how much to standardize or to locally adapt products or services for world markets. So they've got another kind of variable that they've got to think of. So companies often would like to standardize their offering. right? That makes it the easiest. Standardization helps a company develop a very consistent worldwide image. It also lowers the product design costs, the manufacturing costs, and marketing costs because you only have to do one thing if you got this very standardized offering. However, the markets and the consumers in all these different markets around the world are going to differ wildly in terms of what they want, what they need, what is going to create value for them. And companies usually respond to these differences by slightly adapting or maybe big adaptations of their product offerings. So an example, so McDonald's, again, we all know the Golden Arches, very popular, the most popular fast food restaurant in terms of sales in the United States. McDonald's operates in more than 100 companies, and sometimes they have very wildly varying local food preferences. If you've ever traveled internationally and been to a local McDonald's, you are probably going to see some very different offerings than you do when you go to the McDonald's just down the street from your house. Although you will usually still find the signature hamburger, cheeseburger, and fries in most global locations, but the chain has added menu items that are going to meet the unique tastes in these local international markets. So some examples of international offerings that you will see if you are in other countries. And you can see McDonald's had to change their menu for these local markets. So in Singapore, you can get a salmon burger. Can't get that here in the United States. In China, you can get a mashed potato burger. In Korea, you can get a shrimp burger. In Thailand, you can get a samurai pork burger. In Malaysia, you can get chicken porridge. In Hawaii, again, part of the United States, but very different in terms of taste. You can get a breakfast dish of Spam, eggs, and rice. In Germany, there is a bratwurst sandwich. And in Israel, they have a McFalafel. So again, you can see how just the example of McDonald's alone, you're going to have to modify your product, your services, your offerings to satisfy the local markets if you decide to operate internationally. And that is the end of chapter 8. We will continue on with chapter 9, and we will talk soon. Thank you all.